Hi Chris, how are you?
Good evening, Rod. Yeah, I'm well. Here we are. It's episode 198. It's the 10th of November, and it's still 2025.
It is still 2025, although it's running out fast, isn't it?
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? I've got a son's birthday coming up and obviously Christmas, and it's incredible how quickly we seem to be pivoting into Christmas mode with my son playing Christmas music and putting up a little tree in his room and lights. My kids quite like Christmas, and it's all kicking off a bit early for my liking.
That's far too early. I'm sorry. I had an inviolate rule that you can do Christmas stuff once it's December and not before. And that's far too far before.
Yeah, usually for us, my son has a birthday in early December, so normally it's post his birthday, seems to be fair. But the kids are enjoying the moment, so I kind of want to let them enjoy the moment because they are teenagers and it won't last for much longer.
All right. I mean, I'm not going to judge your parenting very much, although I am obviously internally judging your parenting very much. But, you know, for me, I think it was that my youngest's birthday was early December, the same as yours. And as soon as that was done, fine, all systems go on Christmas. Yep. But, yeah, it's a bit early yet. So let's change the subject quickly before I get too judgy and talk about the weather. How's it for you?
It's not very festive, the weather. It is definitely full-on torrential rain here, and it's a bit like a quagmire.
Yeah, similar here. You get a little patch of blue sky and then it absolutely smashes down with rain. There's a famous roundabout in Swansea. It's called the Cumbrilla Roundabout. There was a man kayaking in it last time it rained this much, and there's been a couple of drowned cars. So, yeah.
I've not heard of that roundabout. I've heard of the magic roundabout near me, but I've never heard of that one.
Cumbrilla is quite famous, and I guess you didn't drive much back in the day when you were here, but do you know where the BMW garage is in Swansea?
I definitely didn't go to the BMW garage when I was a student.
Well, certainly when you were a student, but being the fan of BMWs that you are, it's a place you might visit these days, and it's the roundabout nearest to it, and it's like a paddling pool.
When I come your way, I will check it out.
As long as you don't have to drive through the paddling pool. Shall we just go and do some follow-up, I think, rather than now we've ended that subject?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. So straight in. We've been complaining about Tahoe a bit recently. I talked to you in the week about my absolutely appalling bug where I was updating Microsoft Word, I was installing a new version of Xcode, and I still haven't resolved this, but somehow one thing became the other, and now all my Word documents open in Xcode, and I still haven't worked out a way to fix it.
It does seem like a very buggy version, doesn't it? For all the additional features these OSs have brought, and there are some in there, it does feel quite buggy and quite decisive on its appearance.
Yeah, and this brings us to our point, really, which is the 1 Foot Tsunami blog, which we've featured before. It's Paul Kafasis's blog, and he's completely gone off on one about how terrible the icons are in Tahoe. And, I mean, I think we talked about this during the beta period, about how Squircle Jail was a thing, that if your beautifully designed icon didn't fit the exact parameters for what Apple had in mind for Tahoe, it would put a grey border around it. And, you know, for the YouTube viewers, you'll be able to see Audio Hijack Pro, which is an icon which is an application you and I both use and love, being put in Squircle Jail. So this particular example, the microphone, it's a podcasting app, is what most people use it for, is outside the Squircle that is the app. So in Tahoe, they've put a big border around it. It's much smaller than it used to be, and it looks terrible, frankly, just sort of the default appearance if you haven't updated your icons to Tahoe. Is that a fair summary?
Yeah, I think that's a fair summary. I think it's a bit sad in a way. All the icons are going to be the same shape. They're losing some of their cool identity. I think, you know, you rewind, 15, 20 years ago when you first got a Mac, the icons were cool. They were really cool, really different to Windows, and full of detail, like full of loads of detail and color depth. And that's all gone. And then the ones you're showing here on the left of the older icons, they were like half squircles. They all had a squircle background, but objects could poke out of the squircle. And now obviously they're being enforced only to be in the squircle. And they've lost some of their fun, I think.
It's not just the fun. I don't think they say what they need to say anymore. And some of the examples are, a photo booth was like you'd go to the old school to get your passport photograph done. You'd sit in a photo booth. A camera would take a picture of you, and then you'd have it. So the old photo booth icon had a camera lens on it, had a couple of photographs in the background, whereas now it's just some photographs extruding from a slot. Mission Control has lost a lot of its character where they are sort of individual windows.
I'm sorry, Mission Control was a rubbish icon.
It was, but Automator was a great icon.
Yeah,
it showed a little robot that was doing a thing. And the new Automator icon, the old one would be a robot. He extruded slightly past the squircle, but you had a pipe. Automator, he was doing something. Whereas it's now just like a blue circle. Is that a robot? I don't know.
No, it's rubbish.
They're all rubbish. And I think the worst one, if I scroll right to the bottom, isn't digital color meter for me. It's text edit. Text edit had a pen, it had a notepad, you could see what that was. Whereas now it's just some lines on a page. And there's no character in that at all.
They're all rubbish. I think that's the problem. Not one of the icons is better than its predecessor. And preview as well. Look at how beautiful preview was before and how horrible it is now. I don't like the style at all. I think it's awful. And I hate that a lot of them have just got a grey background because they have to have some form of squircle shape to put it in. I don't like any of them.
I agree with you. And Paul's got it right. Tahoe has terrible icons. I don't think we need to say more about it than that, but all of these icons are bad.
Yeah, I've said it before. I think actually Microsoft have better icons now because they don't all have to be a squircle. They can have transparency to them and be different shapes. And I never thought I'd say it.
As a more than occasional Linux user these days, I think GNOME has a more consistent desktop. I think KDE has a more consistent desktop than the macOS desktop these days.
Yeah, it's such a shame, isn't it? It's infuriating.
The company that was known for its design and, as Steve Jobs himself put it once, Microsoft doesn't have good taste. It's Apple now that doesn't have good taste.
Yeah, I fear you're right. I think there's some things I do like, but there's a lot I don't, and this is in that camp.
Something else we didn't like was how Microsoft was treating our data sovereignty. We talked about the Scottish Police getting the admission from Microsoft that actually Police Scotland data was actually in some sort of CDN in America somewhere. The EU particularly didn't like this, which won't surprise anybody given how the EU feels about this stuff. And we've talked before about people spinning up their own clouds and the problems with that. Anyway, Microsoft have decided that actually they will try and give a little more credence to this. So this is the US Cloud Act is also part of this, that a whole bunch of customers are being made to have their feathers unruffled, I think, by Microsoft saying that they will have more data sovereignty. So this is interesting, I guess. There's a lot of geopolitics behind this and the way Trump is treating. There's been breaking news as I was leaving work earlier that Donald Trump is going to sue the BBC, actually, so I'll be really interested to see how all the sovereignty stuff sort of pans out.
Yeah, I think this makes sense for Microsoft. They're going to do it, aren't they? And it's really important in the world we now live in. Like the world has changed, the political world has changed, and we're seeing it, aren't we? A lot of companies want their data where they reside. So it doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, it's not just Microsoft. Google have said they're going to try and do this as well. Amazon Web Services have said they're going to try and do this as well. I guess we'll see. The EU will absolutely be the test case for this because they are far more precious than the UK is about where our data ends up. We've kind of just gone shrug. If it goes to America, no big deal. But I think the EU is the right approach to this, as with so many things.
I would agree with that. I think it's going to be interesting to see how it goes. But it's good. It's good they're doing it.
It is good. Something else that's good is good journalism, and it's rare. Once upon a time that I'd have said Sky News was an agency that's doing good journalism. Certainly, we've just talked about the impact the BBC is having, but this was a story that I picked up in the week about Sky News actually doing a data visualization as part of the story as well. And this will work better for web viewers. Or please go and click the link, other listeners. But as you scroll through, it sort of entices you into the story about how Elon Musk's account spread from being 1 to 22,000 to things that you want, political content being politically right-wing, predominantly right-wing, and how that sort of spreads to other users within Twitter, which we talked about at the time, but it's nice to see a mainstream news agency doing this as well. And how his account is boosting the British right-wing. A country that he has no relation to, that he has decided he dislikes because of a political thing. He's telling people how to go and vote, and at some right-wing political rallies appeared on the screen as sort of the voice of reason, with lots of people doing it. And this particular tweet that they pick out here, when Tolkien wrote about hobbits, he was referring to the gentle folk of the English shires who don't realise the horrors that take place far away. They were able to live their lives in peace and tranquility, but only because they were protected by the hard men of Gondor. Is that Elon in this case? Or is he saying that it's the British right wing that are the hard men of Gondor? What, frankly, Elon? And the fact he's in a position as a businessman to be able to have this sort of political influence on a sovereign nation it's blowing my mind.
Yeah, I'd agree with you there. One, the article's really nicely done and the visualization's good. Two, I didn't realise, Elon apparently live streamed on X and was beamed onto the TV screen where this political rally was being held. And apparently what they're doing is X is like, popularising his tweets, I don't know what you call them, his posts more than others. And that's what the Sky article was trying to find out is like, if we sign up, how much content is X forcing upon us? And it feels like they are pushing a lot of right-wing stuff towards new joiners and that.
I might have had a certain amount of sympathy about a platform like this should have no politics behind it.
Agreed.
And if you're going to have a predominantly left-wing platform, that's problematic. If you're going to have a predominantly right-wing platform, that's problematic. You either police it to be completely balanced, or you don't, in which case it's completely balanced. This isn't completely balanced. This is pushing one side of the agenda at the cost of the other side. So it's all very well talking about freedom of speech, but it's only freedom of speech that suits him and that suit others in that particular sort of style of government at the moment. So I've got a lot of problems with this. My own politics and your politics, I think, are fairly obvious from this podcast, but this isn't balanced.
No, I'd agree with that. And I think that was, one of the benefits of Twitter. People were more balanced than what it is now, whereas obviously it's going very much one way because of the person who owns it.
Anyway, it's a very good article. I would encourage people to go and read it. It's just I want to encourage positive mainstream journalism because I think it's under threat. And again, with the BBC, I think it's under threat. The Guardian has certainly faced this as well, who we tend to post from more than others. But I think it's important to call out Wired, another example of a good, more mainstream, if tech-focused journalistic sort of bent. It's good to see this kind of reporting can still take place, and it's worth celebrating it a little bit.
Yeah, it actually looked like a Wired article, but hosted on Sky.
Exactly. Good to see. And, of course, Sky is a property of Rupert Murdoch. So, balance in all things. Who knew? Moving back to Microsoft in a more sort of tech-specific story for us. We've talked before about Microsoft's habit of bundling things and then charging after. They're still up to these games, particularly in Australia. They were trying to get people that were joining their Microsoft 365 plans and were bundling AI stuff into it. A court has made them walk back on that. Isn't it a shame that it takes a court to make them walk back on this kind of ruthless practice that we see from large companies like this?
Yeah, it's often the way, isn't it? They're always trying to force you to the next tier. And Microsoft, were like, you can still stay on the classic one, but then didn't really explain how to get to the classic one. And you see that kind of thing all the time, don't you? Where, look, you can do this, but they make it hard to do the cheap option, and then I guess they get more customers sign up for the more expensive option, and Microsoft's guilty of that.
Very guilty of it. And this is called dark patterns. It's sort of a deliberate attempt to obfuscate, good word for a Monday afternoon, way of operating to get the cheapest option, to find the best deal, to not realize that you're having all sorts of extra things that aren't required of you foisted upon you, as we've seen with the default Outlook app as well, it must be said, and where that advertising data goes. So this kind of shady practices, Microsoft aren't the only people guilty of this. Apple do it to a certain degree. Adobe absolutely do it with signing up and trying to leave their apps. And any time where there is a cheaper option, of course they don't want you to pick that. So, do better, Microsoft.
Yeah, agreed. Like, your products should sell themselves. You shouldn't have to force people to buy them.
This feels like the song we sing all the time on this podcast is that, just compete.
Yeah, just compete. It's that simple.
Yeah, compete on the merits of your platform. Somebody else who is, after a legal process, competing on the merits of their platform are Epic. Epic and Google suddenly seem to be best friends, that they were pushing back on this, there were appeals and all the rest of it, but apparently they've actually settled, despite the fact everything was going Epic's way. So this is a report on The Verge that, the Supreme Court rejection was going to happen. All of a sudden, Google and Epic are friends. It's great news that if you look at all the tweets and posts and everything that's going on, and of course, The Verge is going to do its lovely thing to me, which it randomly does where it wants me to do advertising. But what this is that alternative payment options will be available inside of the Play Store, as will Fortnite's ability to gather money and all the rest of it. So it doesn't feel like a win, though. I mean, a settlement never feels like a win, but particularly when Epic were about to get what they wanted.
Strange, but look, Google's gonna, have multiple Android's gonna have multiple stores, and you don't have to use Google Play billing, and you're not. What was the other thing I read? The other app stores can have access to all the apps on the Google Play store. So it feels like a win, to be honest. It feels pretty good, and it's kind of all the things we've been saying about Apple. Apple, stop forcing everybody to use your way. You should be winning on merit, and it feels like Google are going that way.
I mean, the worry here is that Epic have won, in inverted commas, but what happens to the next company that come along and have got an issue with this kind of thing? If there was legislation to say Google must do it, then all the other companies that come after Epic have trod a path for them. In this case, it just feels like Epic have got a win, but not Spotify or not, those following things. So I'm kind of a bit about this.
No, I think this is more than just Epic, though, isn't it? Because they're saying here, rival apps, Google will force Google to carry rival app stores.
Till the next time. But force is a settlement isn't the same as a judgment. You know what I mean?
True. Yeah, okay.
You haven't got legal precedence that this must happen. You've just got, we'll do it for now.
We do it for now, and then we might slowly turn it off in 5 years' time. Okay.
Yeah, and then it'd be a real shame if something bad happened to your app stores because there's no legislation here. So, you know.
And this is only in America.
And this is only in America. So the rest of the world will wait and see. With Apple, we'll wait and see. But things are happening, and as is our point of follow-up, it's important to follow up on this stuff because we've been talking about it for a long time.
It would be interesting if Android ended up with the moral high ground and actually then go, we're going to do this everywhere because it's the right thing to do. That would be interesting.
Wouldn't that be a lovely fairy tale world that we lived in?
Yep, agreed.
It doesn't feel like that kind of world at the moment. Something else that we're not used to is Apple updating its apps in any sort of significant way. We've sort of questioned Apple Music Classical and others. Clips app obviously died recently. We've been looking at Freeform without any changes to it for a long time. Apparently there's some signs of life, though. In iOS 26.2, Freeform has got a new feature. Were you aware of this?
I haven't used Freeform a huge amount, I must confess. But yeah, it's going to have tables now, which... Okay, makes sense. I mean, Apple already had the code for this because sure they can lift it out of pages or numbers or notes. So it's a bit weird it's taken this long. I am impressed with the little point updates. We do seem to be getting some reasonable features liberally sprinkled across the operating system. So I think it's pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad for the 4 people that use Freeform that they've got tables there now, but why weren't they there before? This just seems like a massive omission to me.
Yeah, it's an odd one, isn't it? I think, like I say, it's not like they haven't solved this problem on other apps. So I wonder how much their code they have to share, or they can share easily between apps. I don't know.
Maybe it's just what I do for a living, but I just expect tables and CSVs and things to be everywhere because that's what I use.
It's probably more your world than mine.
Oh, come on. You love a spreadsheet in business.
I don't love it. It's just a necessary evil.
Necessary evil. Yeah, I suppose so. And in other shocking additional features, they've actually updated in 26.1 Spotlight's clipboard feature. I actually whinged about this myself, that Spotlight as default would only keep your clipboard clippings for up to 8 hours was the default thing. Anyway, they've added some additional things where it will be deleted immediately, or you can keep your things for up to a week. I want to say maybe it's 28 days. My memory is now proving unreliable.
30 minutes, 8 days, 8 hours or 7 days.
I was right, a week. So 30 minutes, 8 hours, 7 days. This is much better. I'm still not happy that there isn't a default keyboard shortcut just to bring up the clipboard menu, and you've got to do Command 4 to actually get to the clipboard settings in Spotlight. In my clipboard manager of choice, which is Mackie, it's Shift Command C, and it pops up the last 15 things or whatever I've had, in a menu, and that's what I want to see. I don't want to have to do 2 keyboard shortcuts to get to the thing that I want to do, and then have to do additional manipulations within that to find the actual thing that I was looking for. So, but progress is good.
Yeah, it's good they haven't just released it and walked away. They are making tweaks, and we're seeing this a bit with Apple at the moment. I think it's good.
I agree. This is good. So, signs of life from 2 things that they've done recently that they're not entirely dead, even though one of them is brand new and one of them's a bit older. So, yay, Apple, for once, I guess.
Yeah, I think so. Like I said, I think the point updates have been good thus far. May it continue.
Look at us with positive Apple feedback. That's been a rare event, that, Chris.
This is true, especially this year.
Shall we do some news?
Let's do it.
So, first story. We've obviously been seeing that Apple have had a few intentions towards satellite messaging, satellite calling when you don't have cellular service. You've obviously had emergency things. That's been expanded this year in this version of the OS to include breakdown services and things like that. So if you've got a flat tire in the middle of nowhere, you're actually able to contact your breakdown service and make use of that. It's not a life or death emergency, and I think this is a good trend. You could see how that would be particularly handy for lots of people, particularly in more remote parts of Scotland, Wales, for example, where there isn't, I can't think of remote parts of England, but they must exist, I guess.
Out on the moors or something.
Pennines, something like that. Yeah, there's mountains in the UK as well, and obviously Europe has broader sections of places that are inaccessible. I can think of big bits of Spain that are basically desert. So this kind of stuff is good. Apparently, Apple are now thinking that they may want to do more with satellite connectivity in the future beyond emergency SOS, so to provide a framework for third-party apps to do satellite networks, satellite-powered maps, so when you lose cellular connection, if you've forgotten to download an offline map, potentially have the ability to do satellite map. There'll be richer messaging capabilities, so photos over satellite messaging rather than just plain text. This is an interesting one. What Gurman calls from the article on 9to5Mac, natural usage, so potentially satellite data giving you where you can't have an unobstructed view of the sky. It would work indoors in a car. How does that work? I have no idea.
I have no idea. Does it mean new iPhones are going to have stronger antennas for this? I don't really know how that bit works.
I mean, this is it. Conveniently, there's an advert for Starlink on the side of the 9to5Mac page here. And if you look at the Starlink
it's
dish...
very well done, isn't it?
Yeah, yes, that's very good. The Starlink dish, which is a much smaller thing than you and I would have had back in the day for our satellite television, which only received data, couldn't send data, obviously. It's still a fairly significant thing. It's like two A4 bits of paper balanced on its side that we've got to have an unobstructed view of the sky. So this is amazing. You're going to be able to walk inside a building and get satellite connectivity that will give you all these things.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how that's going to play out, but it sounds good. Are we going to be moving away from cellular and just go for satellite connectivity?
But this, the part of the thrust of the article is Apple are sensitive about this because does this turn them into a provider of cellular networks? In which case, O2, Verizon, all the carriers are going to be going, hang about, what's going on here, Apple? Don't you need us for your networks? You're not just one yourself, which is probably why they've never gone into the MVNO thing as well. This is a sort of slightly questionable area for Apple.
Yeah, I would agree. But what these network providers are going to do?
Well, if you're Starlink, you're probably quite happy, or if you're Globalstar or one of these online providers of satellite things. I mean, there is the last bullet point of the article here is 5G NTN, which apparently allows iPhones and cellular networks to tap into satellite connectivity for increased coverage. So that's like a boost when you've only got one bar. Maybe it can sort of hedge over to satellite networks, which sounds pretty cool as well. I got to think we'll pay through the nose for that, though.
Yeah, especially in the early days. So, yeah, I think we see a bit more detail here. The satellite thing's been odd, though, hasn't it? Because Apple said it would be free for a couple of years. That was like 4 years ago, and they don't look like they're charging for any of it now. So it's a strange one.
Yeah, I did see an article today that I haven't put in the show notes, I'm afraid, about Fitness Plus is up for review. Apparently people are questioning the value in Fitness Plus and the whole thing is being redesigned. So maybe there is a bit sort of deeper thinking going into Apple about what the Plus part of the subscription actually means. And that sort of nicely segues onto our next story, which is 26.2 has some hints that an Apple Creator Studio could be coming. So what do we suppose this could be?
I think this makes sense. Surely this has got to be Pixelmator, Final Cut, Logic. Yeah, sorry, I'm having a moment. Et al. So kind of makes sense. We used to have iLife back in the day with all the sort of photos and film editing and DVD, and then we had iWork, which was the Office apps. So it would make sense that they have like an Office studio, a Creator Studio. Why wouldn't they do this? Curious to see what it's going to look like. But yeah, I'm a big Pixelmator person. I don't really use the other ones. So yeah, curious to know what the end goal is going to be here.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. They have got a few apps you could bundle together. As somebody who bought Final Cut Pro back in the day, although I don't use it, I haven't had to pay an update for it beyond the £300 that I initially spent on it. I want to say 10 years ago at this point, maybe 11 years ago. I still got the most up-to-date version of Final Cut Pro 10. It comes with Motion, which is a motion graphics tool for video work, and Compressor, which is a means of compressing all the very large video files into a more consumable format. To add to that Pixelmator, add to that some of the iWork, for want of a better word, suite as was, you have got a fairly compelling bundle, particularly they've got a more pro version of some of these things, and then Pixelmator as well. And of course all the,
I think it'd be good. And they're on about these apps will also come to the iPad, so you'll have main stage, motion, and compressor not only on the Mac but also on the iPad. It feels like with all the windowing system, they are finally putting the effort into the iPads. Yeah, I think it'd be good to see what this looks like.
Of course, the crucial thing will be A, what it looks like, and B, what is it going to cost? Because the subscription, you're going to have to pay for that. Because let's face it, Final Cut Pro on an iPad now has a cost. You don't pay a one-time fee and it goes away. Which you and I have talked about before is what we like in our apps. We want a one-time cost. Happy to pay for big major upgrades. Let's face it, there's lots of apps I've paid for. Most of the Omni apps over the years, whenever they've been updated or upgraded, I paid for the next version of them. So that's going to be a thing. I don't really want to pay a subscription for these things.
Yeah, I can say it too. It's a shame they don't do a couple of tiers of licensing. Like you kind of want the occasional pack, and then you want I use this every day. This is my life pack, where paying the money is a no-brainer. I'm curious to see what this looks like, but for me it feels good because they're going to put some effort into the iPad, which I like the sound of.
I suppose that is a good thing. I mean, if you look at a model like Flighty, which is a wonderful app if you've ever done any flying at all, I feel like they've got the best thing. Lots of people would say, I'm not spending, I can't even remember what it is, let's say £32 a month for the annual subscription to Flighty, which is what I've paid when I've been flying a lot in the past. Most people don't fly enough. Maybe they go on their holiday, they use it once, they don't need to spend all that on that. And the monthly cost was quite expensive. However, Flighty now offer a weekly pass, which I think is a $5. It'll give you all you want for a week, and that's all you probably need if you're going on your holiday. Most people only go on holiday for a week. Yep. You get all the benefits of Flighty, the belt that your luggage is going to be circulating on when you land. You get the updates and the delays and the notifications. It's great, and I think that kind of model is something Apple should think about, and not just it costs this every month.
Yeah, I would concur with that statement.
Anyway, interesting. Watch this space, I guess, to see what happens next.
Yep.
Something else you should watch the space on is the advice that you're given on charging your mobile phone. We've had various sort of advisories about this in the past, whether it should be charge it to 80, set your warnings on it, charge it to 100, don't discharge it all the way. What is the best practice for managing batteries? Well, someone's done the hard yards for us and actually looked at this. What are the impacts of carrying out fast charging on your phone versus standard charging, MagSafe charging it to 100, charging it to 80, not charging it until it goes flat, all that kind of stuff, with a bunch of iPhone 12s, I think they were, 6 iPhone 12s, using a variety of methodologies over a 6-month period to see how they went. And you might not watch the video, Chris, but do you want to know the short answer to this?
Yeah, what's the short answer?
The short answer is, doesn't matter. Use your phone as you want to. It makes a very negligible difference to the sort of overall performance cycle count of the battery over the years, whether you use fast charging or slow charging or anything like that. By the end of it, there's almost no difference in the battery health over that period of time. So do what you want.
So I with both my iPad and my iPhone, I've been only charging to 80% because the batteries are so good on them. And my minimal usage generally means I don't need more than that. And that's something I've started doing to more protect the battery for when I'm done with it and I pass it on to a family member. But I haven't worried about slow or fast charging.
But that doesn't matter either. Basically, do what you want. Just treat your phone, charge it before you go out, do what you need to do. And I think that's fine. This stuff bothers me more in my car than my phone because it's obviously a much bigger, much more expensive battery. But at the same time, it has far more intensive battery management, hardware and software, than a phone does. So basically, do what you want.
Yeah, fair enough. Do what you want. Maybe that's the rule. But I'm going to do the 80% thing because I did hear on a podcast somebody do that. And they're like, after 2 years, my battery's pretty good, and I could hand it off to the next person.
But I think that's kind of the point, is even if you'd done the 100% thing, your battery would be pretty good. We're not talking the old nickel metal hydride batteries anymore. Lithium-ion batteries are different. Battery management software is different. And as we move to the next generation, the silicon carbon or silicon carbide batteries, it's going to be different again. This generation of phones, using all the various methodologies, didn't make a lot of difference. So just have a wonderful time. Charge your battery to 80, charge it to 100, fast charge it, don't fast charge it. I think don't leave it plugged in all the time is probably still decent advice. But other than that, it doesn't really matter.
Okay, it's good to know.
It is good to know. Something else that's good to know is IKEA are fully embracing Matter. You and I are becoming increasingly fans of Matter after a slow start. IKEA have announced a whole bunch, 21 new items, including lighting sensors, controllers, bulbs, all manner of things, as part of a new hardware rollout. So I think this is quite exciting, really. Yay, more Matter stuff is good.
I think it is good. I have struggled when I've gone into IKEA to buy any of this stuff because they're not very good at explaining how it works in their world. You can't see it, but I do have blinds in my shed here, and they're all IKEA, and I literally push a button in the Home app on my phone, all the blinds come down. It's really good. I've had this system for years, so I think they do good stuff. I've got one of their little IKEA gateways, that's been fine. But, and my big but is, I just think when you actually go shopping for it, you kind of need to do your research before you get there, because I've turned up before looking around their home section where they've got speakers and lamps, and they just don't have that much detail in the shop. And sometimes you want to have a look around, like, how does this work? Do I need a hub? Whereas you need to do that before on their website, and their website is very good, to be fair.
I agree. It can be a little, but a little obscure as to what it is that you want to do. But at the same time, IKEA are a fairly well-established brand. I mean, we'll do this kind of stuff. They were one of the first brands I remember building in wireless charging stuff into lamps and tables and all that kind of stuff as well. They are kind of with the curve, at least. They've given it a little bit of time to roll out. The fact that you've got these products, I guess there's an IKEA product, so of course I can't say it, Bill Racer products with all manner of things in, Grillplatz products, Timmerflot, Alpstuga and Clipboard, including a water leakage sensor, I think is really cool stuff that's all built into these things. The 4 Matter plugs I've set up here recently have all worked flawlessly with HomeKit at least. I have had a bit more of a challenge to try and get them added to Home Assistant so we can do a bit more sort of clever scheduling and things like that. But that's for me to understand how Matter works more than a problem with the product themselves. Most people will stick it in Apple Home, they'll stick it in Alexa, they'll stick it in Google, they'll stick it in their IKEA thing, and everything will just work and they'll have a lovely time. And that's a nice place to be as opposed to the highly confusing place we were even 18 months ago, 2 years ago. I think we were talking about Christmas a couple of years back, the problems we were having setting up these things. And this has been flawless for me, and I presume it will be flawless here as well.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. I would be tempted to go look at some of this in IKEA next time I'm there, I think, just to see what these look like.
Well, there you go. There's some follow-up for us to do. I mean, they haven't actually been released yet. The IKEA doesn't include exact pricing or dates. No, releases may vary from market to market, but this was announced in July, so hopefully by January we'll have some of these things to look at.
Wow, that's quite a long time, isn't it?
I think it takes time to build up, and let's face it, Matter was a mess. You know, we kept saying, where is Matter? So at least it's here now.
That's fair.
Something else that might be fair or not fair, depending on how you do it, is where you get the podcast chapters, the chapters in your podcast. So Apple, when I was encouraged to sign into Apple Podcast for Creators very recently, and when I got there, I was informed that we were going to get this whether we liked it or not, in Apple Podcasts app, where an AI tool would scan looking for chapters. However, it doesn't affect us too badly because I spent a long time putting chapter markers into our podcast, so it does it for us. So those links that I put in, that you get different chapter art, that you get notifications, that there are timestamps, you can skip through the podcast more efficiently, is something I've spent the time doing, but not all podcasts do that. If you're a podcast listener who has a podcast that doesn't have chapter markers or automated links to other podcasts built within it, the Apple Podcast app is now going to give you that. And I think that's probably a good thing.
It probably is a good thing.
I was hoping for a bit more of a defense for it there, but
it probably is a good thing, isn't it? Like, AI should do boring stuff for us, and putting chapter markers in is boring. It would be great if something could just do it for you, but how good is it going to be? That's the question, isn't it?
Well, I listened to ATP talk about this, the ATP podcast talk about this last week, and they had their section at the start where they were trying to sell their gear, ATP merch. And during that conversation about ATP merch, they kind of went off on one about the technical problems of putting chapter markers inside of your podcast. Now, how is the AI app going to differentiate that between a technical discussion about exactly what we're talking now, about podcast chapter markers, versus selling merch? Is that the merch section? Is that content? And Marco can do that because he built the app that does the chapter marking, forecasting. He'll know where the merch bit stops, chapter stops, and the next bit begins. But I don't think an AI tool is going to have a very fun time with that.
No, because it won't understand some of the nuance or context potentially. I don't disagree with you, but it should. The whole idea of AI isn't it to make our life better and do the mundane for us?
Oh, you would hope so. You wanted to do the dishes for you, to give you more time to go and paint the pictures, not paint the pictures to give you more time to do it's that argument. And the transcription stuff that Apple Podcasts, I believe, is now built, and I don't check Apple Podcasts often enough, that will happen automatically on our podcast is great. The chapter markers, if it's going to leave me alone because I know where the chapters are, that's great. But for podcasters that don't have the ability, knowledge, inclination to actually put in things, if this does a half decent job, then that's better for podcast listeners, I guess. So I'm okay with it.
Yeah, no, fair enough.
There's a few other things as well. We were on about the transcript, and it's going to give timed links to other podcasts. So maybe me talking about the ATP podcast here will, if we go and check this out in Apple Podcasts at some point, we'll have linked to the ATP podcast and they'll get some listeners.
Yeah, I think it's good. Apple is still updating the podcast app, though. I think, it's good. There's more features coming in these point updates. I think they're doing a good job. It's
great. And Marco needs a competition. And last time we reviewed Podcast Client, Apple Podcast wasn't very good. So maybe it's time to revisit that a little bit as well. I've also amused myself with the thought that we'll be sending listeners to ATP and not the other way around.
Well, there is that. That's a given.
Wouldn't that be lovely? Of course, that everybody's here listening to us. And don't forget, you can always email us or reach us on Blue Sky, as Chris says. Blue Sky and Mastodon, as Chris says every week. Moving on, should we talk about Google Maps?
Google Maps, which is something I never really use, which I'm an odd person here.
I think you should occasionally see how the other half live, Chris. In the same way we're going to talk about something in the main show about seeing how the other half live. It's occasionally worth embracing the competition to see if they're doing things better. I think I've talked a little bit about in my car when I do ask Google Maps for stuff that the Google Assistant up till now has been quite smart. So I've said, are there any podcasts or any EV chargers around a particular town? And it has shown me them on the map while I've been driving without me having to take my hands off the screen. So I can do that kind of planning on the EV as I go. Apparently with Google Gemini, they're going to make this even better where you say, can you suggest a restaurant around this place? You can then dig down on the details around what's on the menu in that restaurant while you're doing that. So you can actually do that kind of planning while being relatively safe in driving. And I quite like that idea.
It's quite a good idea. I struggle with voice assistants, especially in the car, because they never understand me. But I'm curious to see this in action. And I know I'm not the only one, though, but equally, I see other people use voice assistants like my wife, and it's fine. She can dictate to it, and it works, whereas I struggle with it because it makes me angry.
When you're talking about voice assistants here, are we talking about Siri?
Yes.
Yeah, so I think, again, this could be a reason for you to try other things, because some of them are better, Siri's not very good. I don't know if you've heard. Siri's not very good.
Apparently so. Apparently it's going to get better, though, one day.
One day, but they've been telling us that for at least 15 years, I feel.
Yeah, that is true.
Something that's not getting better is cybersecurity, viruses and spyware and malware. And I just thought this was a slightly horrifying little story on the register that if you are a Windows user, you may not be aware that Hyper-V is a virtualization platform that's actually built into Windows clients. In many cases, certainly in the enterprise versions of the machine, Hyper-V is a thing, or there's a bare metal version of Hyper-V that runs, on servers and things like that. But Hyper-V itself is built into Windows, certainly 11, certainly 10, and I think it was in 7 as well. So it's been there for a long time. But so there's a warning that some Russian hackers have found a way to make use of Hyper-V to hide custom malware on Windows machines, and you wouldn't even be aware that it was running, because it's running a whole virtualized version of Windows that you're unaware of, buried deep within the operating system. I think this is very, very clever, because it bypasses endpoint detection and EDR products. And also quite pernicious and probably difficult to work your way around. If you're already running Hyper-V inside of your environment for your various custom things, it's not installed as default, but I suspect there's probably a way that this software can get it to run if it's not. But lots of places do allow it to be run because you've got reasons, Docker containers, whatever else that Hyper-V will be running in your estate. Bit scary, huh?
Yeah, just a little bit. I'm not surprised, but attackers are always trying to find new vectors to get in, but it doesn't fill me with any joy of using Windows.
There's lots of reasons not to be filled with joy running Windows, though, to be fair. Yeah, it's not a platform that gets better, is it?
It's got better icons than my Mac.
That is fair. It has better icons. It's also got many AI-based ways of recording what you're doing, and now actually stealing your data as well. So that's a win.
It's got games.
Lots of platforms have got games, although Windows has more, to be fair.
Yeah, it's got the most, hasn't it? No, I'm not surprised by this article. It is slightly worrying, though, because it can sit there, as they say in the article, quietly until they want to use it. So that's always concerning.
That is always concerning. Did you know that Apple has made the App Store kind of available on the web?
Yeah, I found this a bit weird. I was like, oh yeah, I forgot. You can't really do it on the web, can you? It's a bit of a strange one.
It is a strange one. So what this is Apple has made available a version of the App Store, so you can see what apps are available, what the ratings are, and all that kind of stuff on the web, as opposed to having to look at it inside of the Mac App Store or the iOS App Store and whatever other platforms, TV App Store. So now it's there. You can go and you can click around. You can read people's reviews. You can do all that kind of stuff. What you can't do is buy or install any apps, and that kind of defeats the purpose for me.
That does seem a bit dumb. Like, surely I can go, oh, look, it's got this app. Buy it and send it to this device. Like, Amazon always good at that. You could buy a book and send it to your Kindle. Why can't I buy the calculator app and send it to my iPhone?
Exactly that. And the Google Play Store does do this. You can visit the Google Play Store on Chrome or any web browser and say, oh, on my Android phone, Android tablet, or Google Chromebook, install this app. And the next time you're on there, it's there for you. You can view your past purchases. You can do all that kind of stuff. Why can't I do this on the Apple version? So it feels like your usual half-assed Apple attempt to do something with the web. They really don't get the web, do they?
No, they really don't. But when they do web stuff, they're actually pretty good at, like, you can get Apple Music in the web, and it's pretty good. The iCloud website was pretty good, and it had a kind of iWork folded inside it. It was all right, and they modernise it from time to time. But yeah, it's just weird, isn't it?
I mean, the referenced article is from Dan Morin at Six Colors, and I mean, he points out part of the point of this is on a games console or something like Steam, you can set this downloading to your device when you're at work. So when you get home, it's there. It's taken 17 years for this to happen. This is going to take us another 17 years now. We've got it for Apple to give us the technology to allow us to do that. So it's not just us that are complaining about the lack of updates.
It's just very bizarre.
Not very good at all. I think that's it for news, unless I missed a story.
No, it feels like it's been a quiet week.
It has been a quiet week. I mean, there's some fairly significant stories there, but not exciting ones.
I think it's the summary of the year. We've had significant stuff, but nothing overly exciting.
Yeah, I think that's probably fair. Should we do some media?
Yeah, let's do it.
Have you watched the new show Pluribus on Apple TV?
No.
Why not?
Because if you've learned anything from me, I wait for everybody else to watch all the latest stuff, and then about 2 years later, I'll watch it.
And you'll only watch it if it's a film then, not a TV show?
I've got a TV show coming up. Should I be watching Pluribus?
I think it's intriguing. So I've linked to the Rotten Tomatoes article. It's got 100% from critics and 84% from the audience. I thought the first episode was a bit, The second episode got me, though. It's a really interesting premise. It's a bit Star Trek Borgy. It's a lot going on. What's particularly good about it, or noteworthy about it, is it's written by Vince Gilligan, who did Breaking Bad and did Better Call Saul. Great track record, but his starting in writing was on The X-Files. So if you ever watched The X-Files back in the day, he wrote some of the most creepy/funny episodes going back then. Great pedigree, chooses great staff, good director, a good cast, and compelling stories. This has been really good. The 2 episodes that are there were great. I'd recommend anybody go and watch it, but give it to the second one to really sort of let it start to bite you.
Yeah, okay. I'm aware of it. It's permeated through my bubble, but I don't know. For whatever reason, I just never seem to be an early adopter of TV shows.
Yeah, you get them while they're hot. I mean, we've got a podcast where we talk about Apple stuff primarily, and this is on Apple TV Plus, so your excuses are wearing thin.
Yeah, it's not like there's a barrier to entry here for me. Okay, I'll see what I can do.
Crack on, get on with it, Chris. One thing I have gone back to watch, because I've had a bit of opportunity to watch some TV this last week, is I don't think I talked about it enough at the time, but the Grand Tour episode Carnage à Trois, which is one of the lockdown episodes. For some reason, I decided I was going to watch it. I think cars are in my mind at the moment. You and I can have a discussion about a proper car corner at another time. I'll tell you why afterwards. And I just wanted to watch this. This is one of the last episodes of Grand Tour that they did before they sort of finished with the sand job and then the sort of big farewell. This is just terrific. It's lockdown, bits of it are filmed in Wales. It's all about French cars and the French attitude to cars, and I'd forgotten quite how funny it was. It's terrific.
Yeah, it was quite good. My kids quite like this episode. Yeah, I've quite enjoyed it. I think, though, for me, this is just too far entertainment and not enough car orientated for me. But it is a good show, and they were funny.
But Top Gear was an entertainment show in its latter years. It wasn't a car show.
No, I completely agree. 100% it went that way.
So I thought this was really funny. It was nice to go back and revisit it. There's some stereotyping which won't surprise anybody from the Top Gear crew, but this was just a really funny episode, and it felt like more classic Top Gear than Grand Tour to me, and that was actually quite nice for a change.
Yeah, it felt like three mates having a bit of fun. Yeah, it was good.
And I hadn't realised this at the time, but it looks like they go up, if not the Sugarloaf near Abergavenny, but very close to it as well when some of the background shots were there, and I just thoroughly enjoyed it. It was really nice.
Okay. My favourite bit was the one that's got a tape player right by the handbrake, and I think they have a croissant that falls in it or something. And it was like, why would you put the tape player there?
I hadn't picked this up at the time, but watching it a second time, there's a callback to, so that's a Citroen XM, I want to say. It might not be the XM.
Something like that.
One of the big, which Clarkson says, if you can get one, because everybody's turning them into motorhomes. And of course, that's what he did with one of those cars in Top Gear when he turned it into a motorhome. When they went camping in Dorset and they converted a Land Rover, a Citroen, and a Lotus into motorhomes, and it was that car he'd converted into one. So I didn't pick that up at the time. That was quite nice.
Yeah, it's quite cool.
Moving on, and it's just a public service announcement. I won't go on about it. Taskmaster is still on. They're up to episode 9 of season 20, so we're episode 10 this Thursday. If you haven't watched it, go watch it. It's a great season.
So far behind on this.
You need to sort it out. We'd failed to talk about this last week. I'm going to mention it now. We've both been fans in the past of Celebrity Race Across the World. That started last Thursday. And if you didn't watch it, why didn't you watch it? There's clearly something wrong with you. To be fair, it's not quite as exciting as maybe the last Celebrity edition, although they are in quite an exciting place this time. They're in South America. So are you watching this one?
I will be. The problem I have is trying to line it up with my son, because we need to overlap, because this is one we'd watch together, which is, I'm having the same problem with Taskmaster. They've started watching Home Alone to get them in the Christmas mood, and so we haven't been catching up on this stuff. If I was watching on my own, I would have watched this already, but I was leaving it to watch with him.
I'm going to say this again. It's November.
I know, I agree.
I think that's it for me for media. Chris, you have something, it would seem, though.
Yeah, so I waited, I think, long enough now, and I thought I'd watch True Detective. Have you ever seen True Detective? I don't know if you watched it.
Yeah, at least 12 years ago.
Yeah, it's been out a long time. I quite like Matthew McConaughey, and I thought I'd go and watch it because it obviously had good reviews. It's got 92% for reviewers, and the audience are like, I'm halfway through, and I quite enjoy the jumping around in the timeline and wondering how it's all going to come together. It's really well done.
Yeah, so I watched this when it came out in 2014. Have
you seen the subsequent 3 or 4 series? Because they've done quite a few.
I watched the second series. I think I got bored in the third season. I think it comes back a little bit with the latest one with Jodie Foster in it. So I've watched at least 2 seasons of True Detective, yeah.
Yeah, I thought it looked good. Well, this one looks good anyway. So yeah, I'm curious to see how it's going to go. And I quite like the idea, and I don't really know much of the premise of the other seasons, but obviously it's got different main characters in the subsequent seasons. And it's quite a cool premise, I think, the way they're doing that.
It's an anthology series about detective stories that happen around the world. I mean, this one is quite interesting. McConaughey and Harrelson are very good in this. The episode where it all kicks off, I think, is the second from the end.
Don't ruin it. Don't ruin it. I'm not that far yet.
No, I'm not giving anything away, other than the Nick Cave song that they picked for that is a really good one, because, of course, I've got to point out that Nick Cave makes it in popular media. I don't want to say the ending is slightly disappointing. I'll let you draw your own conclusion about that, but it's 6 episodes? Is it 6 episodes?
8.
8. There's 7 terrific episodes of television in there anyway, and I'll be curious to get your take on it.
Yeah, no, so far I'm enjoying it, and like I said, I think I've left it a decent amount of time.
Yeah, and McConaughey and Harrelson knock it out of the park, absolutely.
Yeah, I like both of them. They're very different, but they're very good.
This might have been the beginning of the McConaughey's. Is that what they call it? The McConaughey's, when the Matthew McConaughey coming back. Like the Renaissance.
Like the Renaissance, yeah. He's done a lot of stuff, hasn't he, in the last 10 years?
He has, and in fact, he was with a film with Jodie Foster. He was in Contact many, many years ago, which is not a bad film.
Yeah, that's like a 90s film, isn't it?
It's not a bad film. Not a bad film. When we've been talking about Pluribus as well, all links. Yeah. Anything else in media?
No, it's been a bit of a quiet time for me. I apologise.
Yeah, I've been watching TV, so I haven't played any games other than Battlefield 6. I could talk to you about Battlefield 6 if you're interested.
I can talk about Gran Turismo as well.
That's fine. I can talk about that too. We're going to talk about one very quick thing, but just to follow up on Battlefield 6, I think I complained last week that it's too hard for an old man like me to be able to see or react to children with amazing reflexes cheating on PC or whatever it is they're doing. Battlefield has released a game mode which is mostly bots, and they've gotten much better with that, where they haven't got very good intelligence, and I'm actually having a nice time playing it, and I can rank up my guns and things, so I found my level. I also took a go at their Battle Royale. I've talked about Warzone and Call of Duty quite a lot. Battlefield has a free-to-play called RedSec, so even if you don't want to invest in the game, you can download and play the Battle Royale, and maybe you should give that a go, Chris, because it works really well on PlayStation, looks really good, the map's impressive, the destruction is really cool. You can't hide in a build.
That does sound quite cool. You've mentioned that before, because I likened it to Red Faction, which I quite like.
Yeah. So that's all in the free to download one. You don't need to spend a penny. Or a cent. It's well worth a look, I think, if you just want to check out a bit of light Battlefield, and you can have some fun on there. So I that's my recommendation, really.
Yeah, it's not like I've got Civ 7 to play yet.
Or Gran Turismo. Let's just finish this thought and move on then, because I don't want to go too long. Your kids play Fortnite, I believe.
He actually stopped, and he's just restarted, because I think it's a Simpsons themed season.
Yeah, I saw something on Disney Plus about some sort of Simpsons Fortnite crossover. Anyway, if you've got a Mac and you want to be able to play Fortnite on the Mac, that has been impossible due to Epic and Apple falling out, unless you live in the EU and you've got an iPad. However, with this little tool called FN Mac Assistant, and following these instructions very precisely, you can download and play Fortnite on your Mac. Have fun.
That's quite cool. That is quite cool. Why do these things exist? I was trying to explain to my kids why they couldn't play Fortnite on Macs and phones, and they're just like, I don't understand.
They just want to have fun, and I get that. There's all sorts of stupid business reasons that Apple and Epic fell out, in the same way we talked earlier about Google and Epic falling out. And it's all to do with money. It's not about the customers, it's money. And what's the word for that? Enshittification. Yay! We should probably drink. We should probably drink every time we say enshittification. Yeah, we wouldn't be that drunk in the last few episodes, but you never know, it comes around again. But I just think this is quite cool that somebody's taking the time at work out how to get this up and running on any M-series Mac. So if you've got a laptop, most of them will play this half decently, I think. Have fun.
Yeah, that is quite cool.
That's quite cool. Shall we do a main show?
Yeah, let's do a main show. So I was just going to touch on, I'm a predominantly iPad user and in the corporate space, and have been for the last 5 or 6 years. But more recently, I've started using my Mac because of some adding I needed to use in PowerPoint, and I could only install it on a Mac or on a PC. I couldn't use it in the web version of Office 365 or on the iPad version. So I've actually started using my Mac in the day, 8-9 hours a day. And I've got a MacBook Air, just a regular M4 MacBook Air with I think I've got a bit of extra RAM in it, but nothing major. What a fantastic machine. I don't know if we've said that before. And I just thought I'd give feedback on what it's like using a Mac after being an sole iPad user for so long.
Hang on, I'm going to stop you right there. I'm going to say, let's be specific. What machine have you got? You got an M4 MacBook Air, the very base model, or have you got one of the slightly upgraded ones?
Please hold caller. I'm just opening up. I've got the 13-inch one. It's got 24 gig of RAM in it. It's got a 512 gig drive. But I don't know what CPU I've got.
So that's enough. That answers the question. So, listeners, that means he has the standard option. That's £1,399. It'll be the same in dollars. So that's 10-core CPU, 10-core GPU, 24 gigs of RAM, 512 gigs SSD storage, £1,400.
Yeah, probably. I think I got it on a Black Friday deal last year.
And you picked that because
I think I just picked that one. I just went for the extra RAM. This was quite a while ago I bought this. I didn't want the 256 storage. That was too small. So I think I was like, I might as well just get the one with the most on it. I think I got it on sale. So I think I paid I paid the price of the middle one, which is 1,200 for the spec of the more expensive one.
Okay, and just to get into what would have been an M4 MacBook Pro at that time, you're probably talking about 1,600 quid, which comes with a little less RAM, same amount of storage. We'll ignore the fact this is an M5, but a much better screen. But it was the portability, the lightness, the new sky blue color that sort of appealed to you about the MacBook Air.
I got the midnight color. I didn't go for sky blue. I did look at sky blue in a shop and went, I can't tell whether it's sky blue or not. No, I really wanted something light because for me, it's just something to chuck in my bag. I wouldn't mind the screen of the Pro. I think it's very good. But no, I just want something light. And generally, I'm using it docked at home or docked in an office. And so the actual laptop screen isn't a big contender for me. Also, I'm largely using Office products on it. So it's not like I'm doing anything fancy.
Okay. I mean, it's just, I think it's, as we're doing consumer advice at this point, or at least consumer exploration at this point, it's probably worth exploring that a little bit. I'm with you. I think the MacBook Air is the perfect computer for 95% of Mac users, frankly, unless you've got a very specific use case. If you're a pro, you know you're a pro. If you're a YouTuber who just fancies getting the more expensive thing because you run DaVinci or you run Final Cut Pro every so often, that's a slightly different thing. This computer will do almost everything for anyone.
I think that's fair.
The only sort of reservations I've got about going from this to a Pro are if you drive more than 2 screens, because it won't. They have improved that a little bit, but there's screen resolution jail on the lower MacBook Air or on the MacBook Air, and actually the lower MacBook Pro as well. They've released that a little bit. I think if you drive 3 screens over 4K resolution, it's not going to cope. I don't think the MacBook Air will do more than its internal screen and one big external screen without some clever dockery.
No, the MacBook Air will drive. I'm using it to drive a 5K screen and a 4K screen external, but I am closing the lid on the MacBook.
So you're closing the lid, and is it on a special dock, or are you just doing it? Yeah.
No, just both screens plugged into the USB-C.
To the USB-C, and how do you charge it then?
MagSafe.
MagSafe. So that's Thunderbolt.
The screen for my studio display, I think, is Thunderbolt. And the other screen, the 4K screen, is just USB-C.
Okay, so you're driving 2 screens, but you've got to shut the Mac to do that. Or
I don't know if I have to shut the Mac, but I am shutting the Mac.
But that is one of the limitations of the Air and over the Pro. The Pro can drive more screens at higher resolution. Other than that, and the fact it's not a Retina screen, and you're missing maybe a couple of ports on a MacBook Pro.
It's a Retina screen. It's not ProMotion. Yeah. So the screen is fantastic on it. By
60 hertz. Yeah.
That's fine.
So through that screen and through that docked thing, you're basically running Outlook, Teams, and OneDrive, right?
For work, obviously, I do noodle around in Xcode for myself, and I've been using a bit of Nova for a bit of website editing lately, but that's just for personal work. But for actual work, Outlook is what I live in with Teams. Been using a bit of OneDrive. Quite impressed with OneDrive, how it comes up in the Finder as a location. I'd forgotten about all of that. I do find it weird how on my iPad the OneDrive app is my way of navigating around, whereas you install the OneDrive app on your Mac, but you have to go and use the Finder to navigate around. It's just those differences between the Mac and the iPad. Similarly, Outlook is very different on the Mac to the iPad, and actually I think I prefer the iPad client. It's a bit dumbed down, but I'd rather have that client on the Mac, I think. It's quite interesting to use. And Teams is way better on the Mac than on the iPad. It's just a lot more functionality in it that's been exposed. And so I think I've noticed a lot more of the difference is in the apps, whereas a lot of the Apple apps have got to more of a parity between the iPad and the Mac, whereas actually a lot of the corporate Microsoft apps are still very different on the Mac. But on the whole, quite a positive experience using it. I think it's fast. Yeah, that's fantastic. There's no fans. Hooking up to my studio display works great, and I'm just using the camera on my studio display. But what a great bit of hardware that MacBook Air is. I think is so good for the, like you say, for the majority of people. And actually the crossover going from the iPad back to the Mac has been quite straightforward, and I think even easier now that the iPad with its window mode has got the start-stop buttons, it's got the menu bar. You're kind of the both are slowly converging, aren't they? It's going to be interesting to see where Apple go with this over the next few years.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in a very similar position to you in that I use a Mac corporately to run Outlook, OneDrive, and a couple of other bits and pieces as well. I mean, Excel and Word, although I try not to. I try to run LibreOffice rather than the Microsoft app where I can. And in most cases, I think I'm fairly successful at that. Certainly, it's what I'm doing at the moment. Now Xcode has decided it's Microsoft Word. So that's been a significant problem. And I have a complaint to Microsoft that downloading just an individual element of the Office suite is quite difficult. You download the bundle and the installer sorts kind of at that out. It's quite an old school installer from that point of view. It's quite hard just to get Word. I might go and look on the App Store and see if I can just download it.
I got them off the App Store. You can just download it.
Yeah, our corporate account with Microsoft is such that you go to Microsoft.com and you just download the Mac versions from there and it installs them all. Okay. So I guess I could do, and I could probably sign in with my enterprise account that way as well, but it's just as easy to go to Outlook and download the whole. You could probably do the same thing with your work account. I suspect it's very similar to that. My frustration with Outlook is that they've stuck Copilot front and center, and I find it very difficult to disable. Teams is Teams, and I only use it when I absolutely have to because we're more Zoom, but every time I go to Teams, I find it quite confusing. It works all right, though. It's an Electron app. It is what it is.
Yeah, it's not a great app. It's not the worst app. What is interesting is you can tell the apps that haven't been recompiled for 26 because they haven't got as rounded a corners. They've just got slightly rounded corners. We're not the 26 really rounded corners, which for whatever reason they changed.
My problem with OneDrive is its integration with Spotlight or Alfred or anything that uses the indexer on the Mac is that unless you've at least opened the file in a preview, it doesn't know about it. That it the automated download depends how you've got your OneDrive set up. I have a very big OneDrive that we share as a team.
Right.
So there's lots of files in there, and if you install a new Mac, you're installing new Mac stuff. It may not have got down to the level of the folder that you're trying to find a file in Finder or whatever. It won't find it unless you've previewed it at least once or opened it in Word at least once, or otherwise it doesn't know to download it. Do you know that sort of file syncing between what's an online file and an offline file? It doesn't do that very well. I don't find it sort of defaults to almost everything being offline until you've actually used a couple of things. If you've created a file and saved it, it knows that it's there. If you've got a big archive of stuff the next time you go and look for it, Spotlight can't find it, and I find that quite frustrating. They should have a better way of leaving file handlers or something lying around so you can index them in Spotlight.
So I've only just started a new job 3 months ago. I've got a tiny OneDrive and I just set the whole thing to sync. So I'm probably in the opposite place to you, but 3, 4, 5 years from now, I'll probably be in the same place you are, which would be a bit concerning.
It's annoying, and I suspect your iPad experience is better in some senses in OneDrive because it only looks in OneDrive, whereas having that long-standing I'm just working on my files thing, I do find it quite frustrating. I will give Microsoft props that OneDrive is better in this version, certainly in the last few versions than it used to be, because it used to do this in Windows as well, so I know that this is a Microsoft problem. It occasionally just decides to not sync, or it'll just sit there and you think it's syncing, there's no problems with it, and it hasn't been syncing for 3 weeks, and you arrive with a presentation you're about to give and it hasn't bloody done it. And my habit is so bad that I'll always download an offline version of the file to a USB stick and on my laptop when I go anywhere because I don't trust it. And that's not fair. It's been solid the last few versions, touch some wood, but I did find that frustrating in previous versions of OneDrive.
Yeah, and I'm largely just using a Mac at the moment. I will probably, tomorrow I'm off to London, I will take my iPad because I will have cellular on it and I won't have to faff about with it. But I'm largely on the whole just using the Mac, so I know the files I've got are on there.
So I'm doing the same thing. I'm going to London on Thursday into Friday, and I will absolutely download them all just in case, because the last thing you want to do is pitch up for a presentation to 300 or 400 people and not have it work.
Yeah, that's not a good problem to have, is it?
Not a good problem to have. So I'm with you. So on reflection, do you feel you're more productive on the Mac or on the iPad? Is it too soon to say?
Possibly too soon to say. I think the Mac took me a little while just to get back into the swing of it, but generally quite enjoying it. The apps is very similar, to be fair. Like they're not a million miles apart. Like all the Office apps, they've kind of all morphed into the same versions, whether you're online or on it, in the actual apps. So I'm probably getting quicker on the Mac a little bit, just a little bit quicker. But now the the iPad does lots of windows. It's the differences for me are probably negligible.
Interesting. I got to say that my few attempts at using an iPad, even though it's a cellular iPad, my frustrations have been the keyboard's all right. you don't have the limitations around the Windows now. But the battery life on an iPad is appalling. And
it used to be amazing, didn't it? And the Mac's just eating its lunch and then doubled it.
Yeah, so I mean that's interesting, and it's funny. There's a few people on my team who do still use Windows. I've converted some to the Church of Mac, but all the Windows ones, their batteries run out in like 2 hours. So when we're traveling to a conference or something like that, the first thing they're doing is, if you got anywhere to plug in, and I look at my battery and it's on 90%, and that's a real stark thing. That iPad users are almost like the Windows users, just a thought.
No, I agree with you. The iPad's always kind of had this 10-hour battery, and for whatever, even when it launched, but Apple have never really kicked it on, and I find it bizarre. Even with the Pro, they've made it so thin, they've not really invested in making it actually a more pro machine like they've done with the Macs. So I find that very bizarre.
Yep, I'll give them a pass because progress is coming, and the windowing definitely helps. It makes it more of a computer. Let us install virtual machines, please, Apple. Not to install viruses, but that would answer a lot of our problems, because it's lovely hardware, and I'd be willing to put up with a shorter battery life if I had a bit more flexibility with the machine. Cool. I think that's just something for us to keep an eye on then over the coming weeks, eh?
Yeah, I've quite enjoyed it. I've missed the touchscreen a little bit, and sometimes I do quite like just grabbing the iPad and scrolling a document or reading something. That I have missed that flexibility.
My closing thought is I find the iPad, particularly in the case, extremely heavy compared to a Mac laptop.
I have got the small iPad though. I've got the 11-inch one, which was a conscious decision because the big one annoyed me because it's just too big, I think, especially for scribbling on or reading documents. And because I dock it most of the time, I don't really need the screen real estate.
Yeah, fair enough. App of the week.
Let's do it.
My app of the week is a follow-up to Homebrew. I've said if you've got a Mac, you should really install Homebrew on it. It gives you lots of functionality. It keeps things up to date. You do need to know a little bit of terminal kung fu in order to make it work at its most efficient. I have found this app called Cake Brew, which gives you a GUI for it. So it'll let you update it, see what apps, what you've got installed, what packages are dependent, and all the rest of it. I don't need this app. It's interesting to have it, to see what's going on, because I'm quite familiar with using Homebrew via the terminal these days. But if you are a bit nervous, a nervous pervis, and you're a bit scared of the terminal, I think it's quite handy to have something like this. So it's just to point out, if you're a Homebrew user and want a bit of a GUI, Cake Brew could be the app for you.
I like the name and I like the icon, but the icon will be surely in squircle gel because it's got a cherry on top of the cake.
Yeah, I forgot to check that, and I'm not launching it while we're podcasting. It's an open source app. It's on GitHub. You can download it, and Homebrew is as well. So I think it's quite nice that these things exist for people that are a bit nervous. And Homebrew, I'll say again, is just such an amazing thing. If you've got it installed on your Mac and you think, oh, I want to install Firefox, Brew install Firefox, downloads it. You don't need to visit anywhere. It's there. It's in your applications folder with the right permissions, and off you go, and it will keep it updated as well. So any of those kinds of things that you think, little apps you want to try, and then you're fed up, you want to get rid of it, Brew, uninstall it, and it's gone. So it's just a really nice, tidy package manager. Never mind the more technical things it can do. Like the Mac version of Python is terrible, and choosing between Python 2 and Python 3, if you care about these things, is a pain in the bum. Homebrew just sorts it out for you. So to be able to manage it using a GUI as well, if you are a bit scared about it, is only to the good.
Yeah, no, it's good. It looks good.
Yep, good little app. Thing of the week.
So I've just put in, and we could put some media, but I just put the trailer in for the Night Manager Series 2. I absolutely love the Night Manager TV show that had that guy in it. I can't think of his name. Tom
Hiddleston.
And Hugh Laurie. This won't have Hugh Laurie in it because it's a different story, because he played the main character as the baddie. And I really enjoyed the book. It's based on a John le Carré novel. So I'm curious to see what they're going to do with season 2, because this is taking those properties and doing something else with them where there isn't a book. So I'm curious just to see how it's going to pan out.
We've got quite a wait for this though, Chris, for your thing of the week to just be a trailer that's not out till January the 11th.
Look, the trailer came out 3 days ago. This is the thing I was interested in this week. But in some ways it's quite nice to have a little bit of hype, I guess, because we live in an instant gratification world now, don't we? So it's good to wait a little while.
Yeah, I didn't ever see a season 2 of this coming, but fair enough, I guess.
Like I said, I was surprised because it was based upon a book. They did a good job of the book, of doing a faithful retelling of it. So yeah, surprised, but curious to see where it's going to go. And Olivia Colman's back in it too.
There you go. I think we can call this a show, Chris.
I think so. So if anyone wants to get in contact, Rod is at g5maniac and mastodon.scott. He's also on Blue Sky, where he's at g5maniac.bsky.social. I am on Mastodon, where I'm at _CGP at mastodon.social. You can watch on YouTube by going to the website, click on the YouTube link, or drop us an email at wakefromsleep@protonmail.com.
Talk to you next week, Chris.
Cheers, Rod.